This is Jay, or Craft by Jay, coming at you with sketch number 7 from Kendra's Card Challenge Instagram Hop. And I just wanted to sort of show you a little bit of my process as I'm putting this together. So I'll put a quick copy of the sketch on the screen here so you can kind of see what we're working with. But we basically have matting and 2 squares and then a secondary bar. So once this is together, let me just check my dimensions. Although usually when I put these together, I just kind of wing it. But essentially, the original sketch has this relatively close to the edge. And then this second piece here. And then we have sort of this area on the right side of the card where we can put something. I haven't quite decided what. I sort of like the idea of the gingerbread man holding up Mary. These are from the What Fun kit from Spellbinders, from that line. And to me, sort of the tones, even though these are from a more classic Christmas kit, the papers I mean, I don't know, I feel like the tones here look kind of muted, especially with using sort of cream in the background. I do want to use a little bit of ink to sort of line the cream around the edge just to make it a little more interesting. I was thinking of also using like a blue-green on top of the cardstock to kind of give it a little more visual interest. I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll just stick to the main panel and then see how it looks. So just going to grab a little sandcastle and trying to use a pretty light hand because I really don't want this to be like super crazy. I just want it to sort of add a little tone. And what you can do is sort of start off the actual paper and to plagiarize someone yesterday, you can always add ink, but it's very hard to take it away. So sort of starting slow helps. And I like this idea of sort of, you know, putting a darker color on the outside because that sort of helps to draw your attention towards the center of the card. So I'd like to do a little more than that, I think. So now I'm using slightly more ink on here. And you can certainly layer this up. This is a pretty subtle look, but you know, you can do whatever you personally like. There we go. The technique that Sagar uses a lot, which I've started to like more than I did initially. So it gives you sort of this, it just gives you a little more added interest without, you know, like if I compare it to the blue, it adds a little bit. I do think that like using a little something on the top and bottom of the blue makes sense here too. So it kind of matches. So I'm going to try that. I have a blue blending brush. Trying to pick up a little ink, not a lot. Here we go. That's about what you want. Like you don't want it to be crazy. And I don't know. I like the idea of pulling in some green here just because most of the pattern papers are green. So I think, yeah, not sure how this reads on camera, but I like how that sort of matches the look. And I will do it with the smaller piece here. I don't know. This one is probably a little more optional because I don't think you're gonna see too much of it. And I feel like bringing in more of the teal here also kind of contributes to this being a more muted Christmas palette as opposed to like a very vibrant one. Anyway, I think I have all the ink I need. Just going to grab a quick rag and just get up any ink that's left on my work surface. Just because often I'll forget to do this and then, you know, you'll turn the card some weird color. I don't think that's at risk here because none of our colors really clash, but I don't know. It's just a thing that I enjoy doing to make sure that things are staying pretty clean. Then I'm just going to take a dried out one. I like to use alcohol-free baby wipes for keeping my surfaces pretty clean. I am going to also reposition my ruler here, which is nice because it gives you a 0 point, so you can kind of line things up. The other thing that works really well for lining up cards that I found is if you have a score pal or something like that, that helps you get a really clean line. In fact, I may actually try a new product I picked up. I picked up the thicker rulers, so they look like this, but I haven't actually used them, so I will just bump this down, and this I think might give a surface that's easier to align on. So let's try something new. So first things first, things can slide under this, so it's not quite as good as a score pal. So let me grab a tool that's more like that. Well, actually, I can just use my Misty because I have it right here. Even though I'm not going to stamp on it, it basically will do the same thing because it will keep the card safe and sound in a corner while I'm trying to align other stuff. So I will hold it there, and then all I really need is some tape to get the rest of this stuff together. Just move that off to the side. So I will grab the smaller piece first, I think. This is just a 1/4 inch tape gun of your choice, and then I will actually try and align it this way because I think that'll be easier to see what we are doing. Whoops. I think this is like the others where it's actually in all the way to the edge sort of alignment versus like it's matted on the sides but it's not matted top to bottom. There we go. Okay. You can see what that looks like together. I will just use one of these magnets to hold this down until the tape is adhered. That should be pretty easy. These guys are about the same, except we're going to mat them more normally, which is to say you're going to go for about a 1/4 inch around. I kind of like the houses up top and the plaid on the bottom, but that is just me. And, you know, when doing these challenges, I tend to try and pay attention whenever I'm using a directional paper like this one, because the most annoying thing is if you get it down and then, you know, it's not quite where you want it. So that actually wouldn't be terrible here because you could just flip it. I mean, you can just rotate this panel if you did wind up, you know, doing it the wrong way. And the thing I really like about these Kendra card sketches is they're really open to interpretation depending on, you know, what you personally like and how you want your card to look. Because there's a lot of room to make it your own. So there is that. And I don't really think we need an alignment tool more than this, but, you know, if you wanted to. So this is also going to be the same height. So what I'm going to do is just flip this guy over and tape him up. There is a pretty neat tip. If you do wind up with like a corner of any of this stuff lifting off, you can use a really small amount of glue and just sort of slide it under the corner, and that will take care of that. I am using the grid marks here a little bit to make sure this seems aligned. That looks pretty good to me. Then I'm going to grab this other piece that we taped earlier. I find these little magnets are just great for holding stuff like this down, because sometimes it can get a little strange to get fully taped up. And then looking back at the sketch, this spacing and then the spacing to this guy are about the same, so I am just going to eyeball that a little bit, make sure I like how that looks, and then push it down, and it should stay put. As you can see, there's a little bit of overhang on one of the sides, and it's basically flush on the side that was next to the ruler. That's likely just due to cutting a little bit imperfectly, but you know, what I will do is I will tend to just get my scissors right up against wherever the edge of my cardstock is and just give it a little trim. Now it's pretty flush. All we really need to do is get it onto a card base. And I think I'll go for sort of a contrasting color, perhaps. The other option would be, so this is one thing we could do. I do like that, especially if we go with the gingerbread man, because I feel like this is sort of a similar, like, brown palette yellow, kind of. Like, it's a fairly close. The other option is we could grab a background that's more like a navy, or we could use one of these cool new, one of these ink blended backgrounds. Oh, maybe it's not ink blended, it's more like watercolory, but, so let's see. I think navy is probably the one that's going to look best, but, yeah. I think the navy really kind of pulls in the blues and the greens. How does this look? The navy to me looks more Christmas. Both are good. I like all three of these, but both of these are good. But since this is flat and most of the embellishments I want to use aren't, I'm going to just tack down this panel. With a bunch of tape. Also with card bases, I always double check which side opens, because this card wouldn't really matter, and you can always just cut it apart and start over, but sometimes it's a little obnoxious if you get your card together and then realize it opens the other way. So I'm really liking how this looks. Looks very sort of vintagey between the houses and the plaid, and what we did to the cardstock to sort of make it a little more, I don't know, almost grungy looking. That's a little not fair, but you know. So we could do the fa la la, I think would work really well. We could use that with the two snowflakes. That would bring in some gold, which is definitely a holiday color. We could do the merry. I think whatever I would do, I would kind of center it here. There are other options. Obviously, well, you don't actually have to use this, but I'm sort of gravitating to the fa la la, because I think that's, I don't know, kind of a more unique Christmas thing that you'd see. Plus, with having some snowflakes, we can just put snowflakes around, and where do we think we would like that? I think that looks good. And then maybe one just to the side, or maybe one up in the corner. I kind of like that. So that is a holiday, actually a fairly a fairly sophisticated looking holiday card. Some of mine tend to be a little like Santa Everywhere, but I like how this came out. Let me know what you guys think, or if you have any sort of cool related projects, feel free to put notes below. I am doing a giveaway for some cat scrappiness products I have, so if you are interested in that, feel free to drop a comment. I will be doing a random comment draw. Either depending on how many are there, I'll either do it Monday or let's just say sometime the week after this goes live on the 15th. So feel free to check that out. Thanks for watching.